Are recording. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started right away. My name, if I remember it today, is Jim Saprinsky. I'm your host for today's Analytics and Data TechCast, which will be immediately following a little bit of a brief introduction. Uh, just to tell you a little bit more about myself, I've been an enthusiastic supporter of AnDOUC over the past few years. I presented a few times on Oracle and spatial topics, and I've also presented at our summit a couple of times. And I'm always on the lookout for interesting and informative topics about uh, our AnDOUC community and what they can benefit from. Today's no exception. Our speakers today, Peter Katrubis and Jay Gangwani from SmackWorks, will bring us up to speed on Oracle Fusion Data Intelligence, or FDI for short. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A area, not the chat area, and we'll have Peter and Jay answer them at the end of the session, or if they have time, along the way, but we'll plan on answering at the very end. So our next TechCast, by the way, is October 3rd. We'll have Bobby Curtis, a fellow Oracle ACE director and a good friend of mine. He's from Rio Data, and he's going to present Harnessing Golden Gate 23 AI with AI Automation, a new era of intelligent monitoring, building, and diagnostics. Ooh, there's a title. It's actually quite good. I've seen his presentation. It's an interesting merging of generative AI with Golden Gate. You can also have a look at our previous TechCasts. We had one just on September 5th. Our panel recommended sessions you should have seen at Oracle Cloud World last week. If you have access to OCW24 session content, or a friend of yours went, they still have access to it, check out that webcast to give you some ideas on what you missed or what presentations you might want to still download. Our speaker's contact information is in the presentation, which is being recorded and will be available on this TechCast page shortly after the broadcast completes. We'll also post a PDF of the presentation on the AND TechCast page. We'll also be posting the TechCast recordings later on YouTube with the hashtag AND_TechCasts. If you have information, interesting stories, expertise, tips that you'd like to share, we encourage you to reach out to us. Here's a bunch of different ways, thanks Peter for advancing the slide, to connect with us, and send us a proposal, send us an abstract, and we'll be more than happy to check it out. And if it's something we believe is relevant, we will definitely add you to the list of presenters upcoming. To get the most out of today's session, by the way, there'll be a set of helpful links at the very end of our presenter session, so you can take immediate advantage of them. This TechCast should take about 30 minutes, maybe a little longer. We'll have time at the end for Q&A. Once again, if you're just joining, use the Q&A window, not the chat window. Next slide, please. And I believe, yes, we definitely want to talk to you about the Analytics and Data Summit 2025 coming up next April. That's at the, quote, old Oracle headquarters in Redwood Shores. It's a 3-day event. It is excellent. If you are interested in analytics, data, big data, spatial and graph, AI, this is one of the few conferences that we have in North America that really focuses on that. So please check out that link that's on the page and take a look at it. But for now, I've rambled on long enough. Let me introduce today's speakers. Peter Katrubis is a senior level informational technology consulting services professional with 22 plus years of Oracle data warehousing experience. He's SMACT EVP of operations. And Jay Gangwani is a senior level Oracle BI solution architect with 15 plus years of Oracle data warehousing and business analytics experience. His experience started with Siebel Analytics and continued through OBIEE, OAS, OBIA, OAC, ODI, and now FDI. Peter, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning for those on the West Coast. My name is Peter Katrubis, EVP of Operations and Program Head for BI and Data Warehousing at SmackWorks. The learning objectives for today's discussion are to understand what Oracle products serve as the basis for Fusion Data Intelligence, also to understand what's delivered pre-built with FDI. Then we're going to go into the deployment in conjunction with Oracle Cloud Applications, kind of how to deploy the seeded Fusion Data Intelligence content, and then how to extend FDI beyond Oracle Cloud Applications or for cloud applications that aren't currently served up as a part of the pre-built content. So Oracle FDI components. So I guess the first part of the discussion of FDI and understanding what it is that you may have heard Fusion Analytics Warehouse or FAW. You may have also heard Oracle Analytics for Applications or OAX. And those are some of the previous names that this product was going by. But today we've settled on Fusion Data Intelligence. So FDI is the reference for Fusion Data Intelligence. And that consists of a combination of Oracle products that are all used to pre-build the data warehouse and the analytics. Starting with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, Identity, and Access Management, that's how we manage the security related to FDI and Oracle applications. Then you've got the FDI console, which will show you a picture of that, and then the description of all the feature functions from the console that you can execute in setting up and administering FDI. Then we've got the Fusion data pipeline infrastructure, which is the pre-built ETL component. And again, we'll explore that further. And then you've got autonomous data warehouse. So this is where we bring the data over from the application and into the ADW. And then from there, we've got our semantic layer and our presentation layer in OAC. So all of these components are what comprise FDI. So these are all ready-to-use components that Oracle manages, but the end user and the client can extend those. So it's, again, consists of the data pipeline, the data model semantic layer, and then best practices dashboards and reports that are all pre-built for you for the subject areas. This is a picture of what the FDI console looks like. So if you're the administrator and you come in, this is your starting point for going about, managing the FDI. This is just a table that explains each one of the components that were listed on the console and what actually can be done from that component of the console. Just a little bit more detail. And you'll see this reoccurring theme where we display the actual picture of the console or the interface, and then we give you a table here that gives you more description about what is involved in that particular area. So FAW, the data pipeline infrastructure, is basically a black box. This is what Oracle has pre-built and pre-developed for Fusion Data Intelligence to bring the data over from your cloud application into the autonomous data warehouse, and then populate the data that's required to feed the reports and that are already pre-built into the system. This is just a blown up picture of it. So you can see the data comes from your Fusion applications into FAW or FDI, and through the data pipeline into ADW, and then feeding again OAC. So the one thing that we want to note is with Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse or ADW and OAC, which serve as the primary components of FDI, that they follow a cadence of updating with the application that happens quarterly. So the difference between OAC and ADW standalone is that they get updated every 2 months. And in contrast, the OAC and ADW that are bundled into FDI are updated on a cadence along with the application. And so here's just an illustration of the high-level architecture. So on the left would represent all the pre-built components, and on the right would represent what you would build out, either because what's delivered in FDI doesn't meet all your reporting requirements. As an example, EPM seems to be the most popular place within FDI where we're seeing people extend, the ecosystem from a custom perspective to allow for that content, which isn't delivered today. Oracle's done a great job with producing this Fusion Data Intelligent Content Explorer. There's a link that's provided here. And also at the end of the presentation, we have a helpful links slide where we've also presented the full URL for you to link out to this. Now, I did link out this morning, and I found some subtle differences, which we'll talk about in a second. This is Fusion Data Intelligence and the Content Explorer page as of 2024 Q2. So I did another screenshot this morning for Q 2024 R3. You can see there's about 340 additional Fusion metrics added from the last quarter to this one. And that's why I included that. This is the actual Content Explorer. So within the Content Explorer, you can pick just the subject areas or the Fusion applications that you have, and only explore the Fusion modules within that pillar, and then also isolate that down for the subject area and the metrics as it kind of cascades down. This is the ready to use key metrics. We'll get back into that. But so here's a way that the illustration of how the filters work. So you can filter it down just to look at the content related to the applications you deploy. Certainly you can do everything. I'm not sure if I changed some of the settings on my laptop, but this morning I went out and the filters were not working. It was displaying all the content related to Fusion Data Intelligence. So it's all there, but it wasn't allowing me to drill down into it. So I haven't explored whether that's changed from Q2 to today, or if there's, again, some browser setting for me. So I apologize for that. Secondly, I noticed this morning that this ability to export this content either into PowerPoint or into Excel was not working for me. But if it does work, you'll see a menu in the top right corner, which will allow you to export to a file and then choose your file format type. And then in this case, it's Excel, and then export it's Excel. Why is this important? This is important because, Jay and I have been working with analytics in Oracle and Oracle data warehousing and analytics for a long time, as Jim suggested, from Siebel onwards. And even prior to that, we joke and say when ships were wood and men were steel, and all Oracle data warehouses were custom. So again, I've been, in the Oracle for 25 years in data warehousing and BI, all custom from the beginning of 2002 or so. So what we've dealt with over the years is a lot of pre-built data warehouses for PeopleSoft with the PeopleSoft VPM, also Oracle BI applications for the on-prem apps with Informatica, and then the subsequent version of Oracle BI apps with ODI. And across all that time, we've never seen this type of presentation and the ability to explore the content, which we think is really beneficial for doing any fit gap analysis against the pre-built delivered reports and your reporting requirements to see what you'd want to deploy seeded, and then what the gap might be or what you might have left over that you need to customize to account for. We've never seen a pre-built data warehouse that met all people's requirements. And we also haven't seen Oracle produce a really nice tool here for exploring the content. So we're hoping that this ability to export it pervades. But today, again, when I logged in, I found that it wasn't functioning the way I was anticipating it. So one thing we're going to look at is when you look at the content for each one of the areas, it's composed of key metrics, then workbooks, and then personas, and then there's a detailed description for each subject area and a detailed description for each key metric. Again, what's being displayed is kind of everything, but you could drill down into each little area. Workbooks are pretty straightforward. That's just overview dashboards with multiple metrics and visualizations. And again, those can be built on by the end user to become more effective. So again, we don't have to belabor it, but for each particular area, it's going to have, again, a key metric selection to just look at the key metrics, then look at the workbooks associated with that area, then the personas, and again, subject area description and key metrics. And that's consistent across all the content. This is a timeline that's also produced in the Content Explorer that'll show you how the content has been extended over time. As suggested for Q2, the addition of Fusion content continues to grow. And from Q2 to Q4, we saw an addition of 340 metrics. I don't want to belabor this, but this Accounting Hub was the latest addition for Q2. I did notice that there was a consolidation where compensation had come out as a subject area. And so I'm not quite sure where that went, but I just noticed that this morning when I was looking at the content. So if anybody has any questions on that, you can put it in the comments and we'll address it later. But we really feel this is a nice tool. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Jay Gangwani. And Jay is going to walk us through the actual implementation approach for FDI. Jay?
Peter?
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, Peter, can I interrupt you just for 10 seconds?
Yes.
We had a couple of questions that are pertinent here, and I thought we'd ask them real quickly.
Okay.
Is Oracle Cloud EPM a data source for FDI?
It is not delivered as a data source today, but you can extend or customize FDI to include EPM content. That would be something you have to do.
To add to that,
Jay, you answered that, right? Yeah, I saw you answer
right,
that.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
another one
yeah.
was, is FDI integrated ADW available via JDBC?
Yes, it is.
Super. One other question, and then we'll move on. What is the back-end ETL tool for this Oracle FDI? Is it ODI ETL?
Jay? I mean, we assume it's ODI, but we don't know. What is
it's the black box.
Black
we
box.
don't know.
Those are always fun. Okay, gentlemen, sorry, Jay, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
Back
thanks,
to you,
Jim. That's why you're the host of the most.
All right. Thanks, Peter. So the two approaches that we see and we recommend, I guess, within our customers, one is the phased approach, which is actually the recommended approach. You set up and deploy the seeded or the out-of-box content after completing the functional and the technical requirements. You provide a proof of value for the higher level executives as a starting point, one pillar at a time, let's say HCM or ERP or supply chain, whichever the priority might be. Once we have the buy-in, you implement the tool with the custom content, both on the data warehouse and semantic model side, as well as on the reporting side with the delivered subject areas. The other approach, and this is not a commonly recommended approach from us because it involves a lot of moving parts, is the all-in-one or the big bang approach. You set up and deploy both the seeded or the out-of-box content as well as the custom content at the same time after you complete the functional and the technical requirements. But again, we don't recommend this approach for most of our customers because it's a big lift. The steps for the phased approach, these are just the high-level steps. You activate and create your FDI instance. It's important to use the same cloud account and region as your Fusion Cloud applications. You pair the environments, you pair the right Fusion Cloud application environment with your FDI or FAW instance. Configure all the data pipelines depending on the pillar that you're going with, HCM, SCM, ERP. You configure the data pipelines, and then once the data loads run, you validate the data. Oracle does provide a built-in data validation piece for assistance. Configure and validate security. You would start with a smaller group at different levels and test the object and row level or data level security. A lot of this can be managed through the pre-built security within Fusion with a few tweaks. And then once you have all of that set up, then you would deploy. Once everything is validated, you can migrate using bundles to deploy to production. activation. So this is a little bit of detail on each of those steps. You activate your FDI using your UCC subscription, Universal Cloud Credit subscription. Once you activate, you get an email. If the goal is to use single sign-on to access Oracle FDI, then that needs to happen at this particular point before you proceed. Creating an FDI instance is the next step. If you provision with SSO, the instance needs to be created in the federated IDCS, which gives you a common place to manage everything. Instance can be created in the default IDCS also, that's available with FDI, which gives you two different UIs to manage security. An email is received by the cloud account admins once the FDI instance is activated. I think this goes with every service within OCI. OCI region. So this is an important topic. We've seen a lot of latency issues with some of our customers who set up their FDI incorrectly. You can see the best case scenario, the acceptable scenario, and the problematic scenarios. Those are straight from Oracle. Ideally, you want to stay within at least the same country, even if not within the same region in the country. Ideal, of course, is to stay in the same exact region, let's say Ashburn or Phoenix, so on and so forth. Acceptable would be to at least stay within the US. When it gets problematic is when your Fusion application is, let's say in Tokyo in that example, and your FAW or your FDI is in the US or in Ashburn. So each Fusion Analytics environment needs to be paired with a Fusion Cloud application environment. As of right now, you cannot make it work without that. You can pair a non-production with any of the non-production environments. The recommended approach, of course, is to pair a non-prod with a non-prod and a prod with a prod. Some more prerequisites. Fusion Applications is the main source of data for FDI. There are a lot of other sources that we're going to talk about that we can set up, but the main source of most of the pre-built data is Fusion Applications. There are prerequisites that need to be completed within Fusion itself before the data coming into the data warehouse looks accurate. Some of those are the enterprise calendar setup, exchange rate setup if the setup is global. Financial categories, this is very important. We know this from the OBIA or the SIBO warehouse days. The financial categories for accounts from ERP, very important. Age bands from HCM. So unlike OBIA, all of this is now being gleaned straight from Fusion within FDI. You don't need to do it anything manual, although manual changes can be made if need be. So this is just a flashback to the FDI console list that we shared. The data configuration piece is where you would do all of this setup. FDI configuration. So there's high level, just 3 different types of configuration. There's your data configuration, your reporting configuration, and of course the security configuration. The OCI configurations outside of these within FDI comprise of access with private endpoints, and then network security or your egress ingress configuration for Fusion Analytics if need be. Data validation. So this is again a flashback to the console. It's available within your FDI console. It is Oracle delivered functionality, which is again a departure from prior products. It does compare metrics at a high level by running analyses in OTBI while also running the same data within FDI. It's important for the user that's set up for FDI to have the same access level on the FAW as well as the Fusion Cloud application side. It is pretty high level. The attributes that are available for these high level metrics are limited, but it does help a whole lot to start doing data validation. And then, you know, more reports can be created on both sides for more detailed validation if need be. Can be scheduled, as you can see. Security, so the high-level security that you can do, security setup that you can do within the FDI console. You can manage users, groups, application roles, data access through security assignments. You can even view the activity histories for all the security assignments, and that can also show you what's come through from Fusion applications when security was set up for FDI within Fusion applications. So this is just a high-level diagram of how security flows or how security works within FDI. Starts out with your authenticated users in IDCS, which are assigned license groups, which comprise of ERP, HCM, or whatever pillar you have, the roles from there, as well as a system role, which actually gives the user access to FDI at a high level, consumer, author, administrator. From there, it goes into the data and the duty roles, or the security contexts. Security contexts are basically your data access sets within Fusion. Those familiar with those, it's the ledger-based security or your business unit security that moves into FDI as well. And then there's your job roles, which are your data roles and duty roles, which control, for the most part, object level security, both in the subject areas as well as your reports. A little bit more about the FDI security setup. Users accessing FDI must exist in IDCS. They can either be synchronized from FDI, like we talked about earlier. For one view, they would be synchronized from Fusion, or they can actually be created in the IDCS that comes with FDI. System groups provide access to navigate. These are your consumer, author, administrator that we discussed earlier. Job roles, for example, your AP manager is more for access to columns within particular subject areas, access for subject areas itself, as well as for access to certain reports on the in the catalog.
And anywhere you see FAW, just think FDI.
Yeah, Oracle likes to confuse us.
Oh, I got ahead of myself. Here we go.
All right. From there on, you would have your application roles, which consist of the duty and data roles. Duty roles, like we talked about, are for performing a certain job function. These control your subject area access. Data roles would control your data level access within the subject area using data security assignments or contexts, which is also mentioned. So this would be the high-level flow. Again, create users in IDCS, license the users by using system groups or system roles, create custom groups if need be, associate the groups to the application roles so it can be controlled from one place and you don't have to take multiple steps to assign the right security, associate users to your custom or pre-existing job-specific groups, and then add the particular security assignments or security contexts to give them access to the right business units or ledger and so on and so forth. The next step would be the deployment. So deployment of artifacts from one instance to the other is carried out using application bundles. And we have a little screenshot of that I'll cover. Bundles are snapshots of application artifacts. So you have the options for different types of bundles now. There's a data config bundle, which moves your pipeline parameters, your activation metadata, any data augmentations that you might have created, or any custom data configurations that were created in the non-prod instance. Semantic model bundle on the same lines creates a custom branch for the repository for the semantic model, and also moves duty and data roles for any semantic extensions, any custom security that's been assigned using the same kind of setup that we do in OAC, which is your variables and instance initialization box, sorry. And then the security bundle moves your custom application security, custom roles, custom groups. Content bundle, of course, would just move all your custom reports and the roles and data set definitions that you might have created. A composite bundle, you can choose one or more. And then an environment bundle is basically moving everything from one instance to the other. This is what we normally use for the first move from a non-prod to prod. And then from there on out, we would either pick a specific bundle or a composite bundle. So that's the screenshot of how it looks. It's very intuitive, the way that this bundle process has been built. You basically download and upload the same way that a bar file works within OAC currently, or used to work within the OBIE era.
So our conclusion for our presentation today and FDI is that, Oracle owns and maintains the delivered FDI data pipeline. We assume, it's primarily ODI, bringing the data over from Fusion into FDI, but technically we don't know exactly how that was built. FDI is extensible and customizable at every level of the stack. Updates are managed by Oracle, and that includes any customizations if they're done following the outline by Oracle. And we found this to be true within OBIA. As long as you worked within the framework of OBIA, you're okay. And so you have to be cautious about how you approach that. You can modify or extend the delivered ETL jobs or semantic models delivered with FDI. And Jim, I think we might have a little bit about us. We specialize in Oracle Cloud Applications, business intelligence, and data warehousing. And again, Jay and I have been doing this for a long time and have extensive amount of experience with the pre-built data warehouses across PeopleSoft VPM, OBIA, and then currently with FDI.
Great, excellent.
And this is a link, I apologize, a helpful link to the FDI Content Explorer. So certainly encourage you to go and check that out.
Like a master link, Peter, that gives us all the information.
It's a public link because there's you have to have access to FDI to access the Content Explorer in some respect, but that's actually a public link. And that may have changed where they don't let you download the content. I'm going to have to report back to everybody on that. I'm not quite sure what's changed. I just discovered it this morning.
Yes,
sir.
We do have a couple questions, by the way. You've got the other three nailed already, but the security that's set up in OFC, does that get fed over into FDI, or is the security configuration in FDI totally separate?
Assuming by OFC we mean Fusion Cloud Applications, yes, it does get fed over into FDI. I think we covered that to a certain extent within the presentation, but yes, for the most part, yes. It can be controlled using Fusion Cloud Application Security completely.
That question came from Jody. Jody, if you need any clarification on that, you can send us a new question. One other question, is the data live in FDI reports or day old as it was in current OBIA?
So Oracle built a frequent data refresh piece within FDI. And that can be enabled for certain subject areas. The recommendation always is to keep in mind the amount of data that's going to be coming over and the resources that are assigned to the instance, since it's a cloud product. The other thing I will mention very recently that I learned from the Cloud World presentations, Oracle does have on their plan to add access to the OTBI subject areas along with the FDI subject areas for reporting within FDI. So that's going to be a combination of live as well as day old, or however frequently you're refreshing your FDI data.
I'm grabbing the link that special link that you had, Peter, and I'll add it in to the chat because a few folks were asking about that. That's still a good link, right? We
Yes,
mentioned.
yes.
Okay, good. Let me just copy that into chat. We don't have any more questions at this point, unless somebody wanted to ask something else. Okay, the link is in the chat for everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, excellent presentation. I learned at least 3 or 4 new 3 and 4 letter acronyms about Oracle I didn't even know I needed to know. Uh, so excellent job, Peter and Jay. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
So this is
And
again,
we will go ahead, sir.
oh, we
Sorry.
just got some links here. Again, we got your pick your flavor in terms of how to connect. We all believe the AnDOUC.org website's probably best. This TechCast will be recorded and published on YouTube eventually, but should be in a couple days here, if not tomorrow, on the website, along with the PDF version of this presentation deck. And again, as Jim suggested, anybody who has a good topic related to analytics and data or AI, and you want to present at one of these TechCasts, we're always looking for folks and content, and we encourage you to submit an abstract for review by our committee. And we also want to put a plug in for our next Analytic and Data Summit. So we've got this planned for April 8th through the 10th. We are doing a call for papers and submittals and abstracts for our summit for next year already. So whether you want to present on a TechCast or you want to present at our summit, we certainly encourage you. If you need any help, you can contact folks like myself or Jim, and we'll be happy to coach you through how to create a presentation. But you know, again, you bring the expertise, but we'll help you kind of how to set that up and get it done. Thanks, everybody. We know you have a choice, and your time's appreciated.
Thanks, everyone. And we'll be closing up the webcast right now. Thanks for coming today. It was fun.
Thank you.